Check this out. Ayn Rand wrote about this all the way back in 1970 in an essay titled Apollo and Dionysus, in which she compares the events of the Apollo moon landing with the events of Woodstock, which both happened in the same summer, and she compared the cultural reaction to both, concluding this is the grimmest inversion of many in the course of mankind's history. But last summer, reality offered you a literal dramatization of the truth. It is man's irrational emotions that bring him down to the mud. It is man's reason that lifts him to the stars. Time for another edition of the capitalism versus socialism debate is not about economics. Because as we all know, capitalism won this debate a long ass time ago. Although people at times still seem dumbfounded that socialism, a system allegedly established on good intentions, has a nasty habit of producing nothing but repression and poverty, at best, stagnation. If the capitalism versus socialism debate were really about economics, we would not see self-described socialists like Bolshevik Bernie Sanders routinely making a serious contention at the presidency. Although I have seen and still see people from time to time say, well, Bernie, he's not a bad guy. He's just mistaken. It's not like Bernie's trying to recreate the Soviet Union or North Korea. No. Bernie just wants to make sure that everyone has access to nice things like healthcare and a college education. See, Bernie, he has good intentions, you guys. And on top of that, wouldn't it be nice to have a leader that's not beholden to moneyed interests and corporate lobbyists? Bernie has good intentions, which is why Bernie won't stop bitching and moaning about billionaires who want to spend their money on exploring space. This is a video that Bernie just tweeted a few days ago. As you can see, he has over 1 million views on Twitter.
Very much that what we are seeing now is not a space race between the United States and other countries as to which nation will return to the moon or perhaps get to Mars, but a space race between Mr. Musk and Mr. Bezos, the two wealthiest people in America, as to who will gain control over NASA and future space explorations. In other words, if we are able to accomplish
if we, as if he's like part of this,
the unbelievable, extraordinary goal
unbelievable and extraordinary goal
of sending a person to Mars.
So now Bernie thinks it's extraordinary.
I want the flag that will be flying on that planet to be the flag of the United States of America, not the flag of SpaceX or Blue Origin.
Yeah. If Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, if they manage to accomplish the extraordinary goal of putting a person on Mars, they should plant the American flag, not the flag of their own private company. Like, who does this guy think he is? Can we finally get this fucking goof out of the Senate already? Like, what's Bernie gonna do if Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk manage to successfully land a person on Mars and they don't plant the American flag as Bernie Sanders demand? Like, what's Bernie gonna do? Is Bernie gonna send the space police over to Mars? Send the space police over to Mars to arrest them and bring them back to Earth for trial for the crime of going to Mars and not planting the American flag? Or what's Bernie going to do? He's going to wait for them to come back to Earth and then arrest them acting all unimpressed after flying across the solar system and back. Maybe saying some nonsense like, what? Am I supposed to be impressed that you put a person on Mars? You know it's a real heroic achievement? You know it's a real heroic achievement? Is paying your income taxes. Yeah, Bernie Sanders really said this. Back in November of 2021, Bernie Sanders tweeted, "Am I supposed to be impressed that billionaires are going to space while they've paid zero in federal income taxes for some years? Nope. It's time to invest in working people here on Earth," I guess, as opposed to working people on other planets. But notice how he pretends to not be impressed with what Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are doing. And now he says it's an extraordinary goal, but he's also unimpressed. Which is it, Bernie? Meanwhile, Bernie's friends like Robespierre Reich over here published an article on his blog back in July of 2021 titled "The Fake Heroism of Space Billionaires," saying that we've privatized almost everything else, but no one can privatize heroism. And they say the villains in Atlas Shrugged are too unrealistic. But I guess what's really heroic is paying your taxes. You don't even pay your taxes. The government takes your taxes. Meanwhile, people are still dumbfounded, mystified, perplexed that innovation and technological progress and achievement happen under freer markets where people are allowed to be selfish, where sacrifice for some vague notion of a greater good is not enshrined in law, whereas countries that embrace socialism see a lack of innovation and achievement. The only things that socialist countries see an abundance of is poverty and repression, despite establishing their political system at aiming to eradicate poverty. Oops. And Bernie's been on this crusade for a while. Back in March of last year, Bernie Sanders tweeted, "Space travel is an exciting idea." Again, on one hand, he's unimpressed. On the other hand, he's excited, saying it's extraordinary. But right now, we need to focus on Earth and create a progressive tax system. We already have a progressive tax system. Bernie, get your shit together. We need to create a progressive tax system so that children don't go hungry, people are not homeless, and all Americans have health care. The level of inequality in America is obscene and a threat to democracy. Just a few weeks ago, Bernie Sanders tweeted, "Jeff Bezos is worth about $180 billion. You know what? Good for him." If Jeff Bezos wants to go to the moon or to Mars, hey, that's his business. Knock yourself out. But in my view, the taxpayers of this country do not need to subsidize his space travel. And you know what? I actually agree with Bernie on this sentiment, although some have said that Bernie is kind of blowing this whole idea that they're being subsidized out of proportion. A few weeks ago, Brian Bender at Politico wrote an article about this, saying that, but the $10 billion that Bernie Sanders has been complaining about, the $10 billion, if it is subsequently appropriated by Congress, would actually be granted to NASA to choose between multiple companies with no guarantee that Blue Origin would be the winner. Now, if Bernie Sanders wants to maybe propose that we privatize NASA and get rid of all space exploration subsidies altogether, I'm not going to stand in his way, although I doubt that's what Bernie really wants. Bernie also tweeted last November, maybe, just maybe, instead of giving bored billionaires money to zoom around outer space, we could finally end the international embarrassment of being the only major country on the planet not to guaranteed paid family leave and paid medical leave to its people. How about that? Well, Bernie Sanders, to you, I say, how about you?
Blow it out your ass.
Now, Bernie's framing of this is a little dishonest. He's playing up this notion that the reason why Americans don't have Medicare for all is because we're not raising taxes on billionaires like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. When we know that merely taxing billionaires won't be nearly enough to pay for Bernie's Medicare for All program. Bernie admitted as such back when he ran for president in 2020, saying that everyone's individual income taxes will increase to pay for his generous socialist programs. And the Mercatus study, the infamous Koch brother funded study that Bernie Sanders praised because it estimated that you would need at least an additional $3.2 trillion in annual spending, which was predicted to lower costs, although the study says multiple times that the $3.2 trillion figure is likely to be an underestimation and will likely have a lot of other undesirable costs and consequences. But even in this study, with only $3.2 trillion in annual spending, has said that, as noted earlier, the federal cost of enacting the Medicare for All Act would be such that doubling all federal, individual, and corporate income taxes going forward would be insufficient to fully finance the plan. On top of that, as I've talked about before, the Scandinavian countries like Denmark, Sweden, and Norway that Bernie claims to want to emulate, they also have much higher individual income taxes on all of its citizens, including the lower and middle class. And those countries still have billionaires. Some of those countries have more billionaires per capita than the United States. So it's not like Americans could have a Danish or a Swedish style healthcare system if only we raise taxes on billionaires like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos instead of letting them keep more of their money to explore space, as Bernie Sanders implies with his rhetoric. But again, this is really not about economics, and we have to get to a more important fundamental issue that Leonard Peikoff touched upon back in 1993 when he explained why healthcare is not a right, as Bernie Sanders likes to claim.
If you notice, have one thing in common. They are rights to action, not to rewards from other people. The American rights, the original American rights, impose no obligations on other people, merely the negative obligation to leave you alone. The system guarantees you the chance to work for what you want, not to be given it without effort by somebody else. The right to life, for example, does not mean that your neighbors have to feed and clothe you. It means that you have the right to earn your food and clothes yourself, if necessary, by a very difficult struggle, and that no one can forcibly stop your struggle for these things or steal them from you once you have achieved them. In other words, you have the right to act and to keep the results of your action, the products you make, to keep them or trade them with others if you wish. But you have no right to the actions or products of others except on terms to which they voluntarily agree. To take one more example, the right to the pursuit of happiness is precisely that, the right to the pursuit, to a certain type of action on your part, not to any guarantee that other people will make you happy or even try to do so. Otherwise, there would be no liberty in the country. If your mere desire for something, anything, imposes a duty on other people to satisfy you, then they have no choice in their lives, no say in what they do. They have no liberty. They cannot pursue their happiness.
Exactly. Having a right to certain rewards and material goods means that there can be no freedom because your desire to pursue your happiness, well, it has to take a back seat. Your desire to pursue your values, it has to wait until the state takes enough money to pay for the rights to promise goods. Which goods are to be promised? When does it stop for the socialists? Who the fuck knows? Today's socialists like Bernie Sanders say healthcare is a right. And does anyone honestly think that when the socialists, when they finally socialize medicine, that they're just going to stop at healthcare and be like, well, that's enough socialism. That's all the socialism we wanted. Does anyone think that's what's going to happen?
No, of course
course not.
Anyway, we're clearly seeing this idea play out with the way Bernie Sanders suggests that we need to violate the rights of people who want to invest their money in exploring space, potentially putting a person on Mars, because how dare they spend their money in pursuit of their values when people are unable to afford things like healthcare. Of course, the reason why Americans struggle to afford stuff like healthcare in the United States, the reason why stuff like healthcare, insurance, and medicine are so fucking expensive is because of socialist and fascist economic policies that people like Bernie support, like Medicare, Medicaid, the FDA, the Affordable Care Act. These programs and other government programs and regulations are the reason why medicine, insurance, and healthcare are so expensive, which I have explained in great detail in previous videos. Policies that popular left-wing pages like the other 98% over here champion. Yeah, good job, you guys. Your dumbass policies made everything worse and more expensive. Way to go!
Well done.
But again, the capitalism versus socialism debate is not about economics, although I cannot help but notice this double standard that a lot of socialists have when it comes to the ends justifying the means. On one hand, if you explain how and why capitalism leads to progress, leads to higher standards of living for everyone, including the poorest of the poor, leads to an eradication of poverty, leads to greater opportunities, socialists will argue that the system is still unjust and unfair when it's not, but that's what they'll say. I guess in that scenario, the ends do not justify the means. On the other hand, if you argue that it is evil for the state to do something like, say, take people's money and property by force for the sake of redistribution, for the sake of their beloved socialist programs, then the socialists will argue that the ends totally justify the means because the money that they're taking from productive people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, well, they're going to give that money to people who need some money. Wow, what a bunch of heroes, you guys. Give it up for them. Yeah, how heroic it is that these socialists, they're helping people with money that they took from other people. Either way, can you guys see the cause and effect relationship between capitalism and progress, and the cause and effect relationship between socialism and stagnation? The ideal of capitalism is to free individuals from coercion so that they can live the best life possible, which requires individuals to think and produce. And even in America's mixed economy, where capitalism has been neutered, blindfolded, and handicapped in the name of fairness or whatever, we still have two productive billionaires competing with each other over exploring space and putting a person on Mars. Meanwhile, America's leading advocate for socialism is explicitly unimpressed, instead arguing that these individuals need to be sacrificed for some vague notion of a greater good. But don't worry, you guys, Bernie's brand of socialism is totally going to be different this time. It's still a mystery as to why when countries embrace free markets, we see an abundance of wealth creation, an abundance of essential goods, an abundance of luxuries, and an abundance of innovation, technological progress, while countries that embrace sacrifice and force see an abundance of repression and poverty.
No, of course not.
After all of this, if you still think that socialism is still predicated on good intentions, then maybe it's time you start to question whether or not your moral code is good in the first place.